you talk about everyone being an edge runner. I haven't gotten to dive through all of Red, but I'm curious. Can you touch on the lawman role and how that applies if you're running with a bunch of edge runners, but you're kind of in this position where you're still working with a lot of the Night City Police Department? Especially just kind of given their role ability, being able to call backup. Wouldn't it be kind of weird to have a bunch of edge runners with you if you call in a bunch of police and they're like, oh, well, you're with a bunch of people who have a whole bunch of illegal mods that we could just take them in, but you're like trying to call in a favor?
So the main thing we did with Lawmen moving from cops in 2020 is that we kind of expanded what they are. So as a lawman, you are a lawman no matter what you are, as long as you are somebody who is basically an enforcer of the law. So that ranges from the official Night City Police Department. You could play a lawman who is with a corporation as corporate police. You could play a lawman who is with Danger Girl, which is a detective agency, which also does some law enforcement. In my games, I generally even let people do that if they're at the level of like, for instance, the 6th Street, which shows up in 2077 as a more malevolent gang, but in 2045 is still sort of the good guys. They're like a local sort of self-policing organization that just happens to be becoming more of a protection racket as they go. So what we generally see in Lawmen is that it kind of depends where you are, but in a lot of cases, you might be working with the other players for any number of reasons, ranging from you're not getting paid enough as a police officer, and maybe when you call in backup, you give them perhaps not the whole story of what's going on. You may be working with the other players because they are useful to you in some operation. We have a lot of edge runners who play vigilante, and at that point, if you call in backup, the backup is in this kind of era much more willing to work with you if you're playing vigilante than take you in, as it were. The Night City Police Department can use all the help they can get maintaining some amount of order in Night City.
Right. They're like, thanks for your help. You made a little bit of a mess, but we won't hold it against you. Yeah.
And I think that there's also something to be said for in perhaps less legal campaigns, you could straight up be a dirty cop. You could be, in the campaigns where you're more just like generally sowing chaos and taking what you want. It could be that you are in there effectively either with a bunch of other dirty cops or manipulating the system to get what you need, as it were. Yeah, you call in backup, but maybe you don't explain exactly what the situation is. Maybe you don't mention that you were the one who started the firefight with the corporates, or maybe you don't explain that you were the one that stole the van that you're currently driving away from the boosters on.
Right, or you're actually a fixer in the whole situation and manipulating everyone against each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a situation where you'd be able to kind of have, like, as you kind of level up and take on different aspects, like you were talking about, modding your solos or your fixers so that you could actually do more combat? Could a lawman then kind of take on more of a fixer role to try and like do some document crafting so that they can kind of like, make up some fake permits for some of the mods that their other edge runner teammates might have, kind of that situation?
Absolutely. One of the cool things about Cyberpunk is we have three methods of character creation. And at the last method, which we call the complete package, you basically build out everything about your character from the ground up. And the great part about that is you can build a lawman who is maybe more of a detective or something of the like, and you can pick where all your skill points go. So you could start as a cop who's really good at falsifying, criminology reports and stuff like that. or really good at working the bureaucracy so you can get exactly what you need. So you can actually do that at the start of character creation if that's what you want to do. And if you started out as like a really like paladin, I'm not going to do anything illegal, and then things, go south, you could build your character into that over time by leveling up those skills instead of leveling up other skills. And then if you wanted to go further, you could actually we added in 2045 the ability to multi-class into other roles. So while you would effectively be technically you would be treated as more leaving the force, you could go from being a lawman to being a fixer, and you could start being a fixer in Night City and get access to the fixer's role ability operator. And the assumption would be made that basically while you've moved on to being a fixer, you still have contacts within law enforcement, which is basically you are sort of like any good team action film. You're able to call up your buddies from the force to say, hey, it's off the books, but I need you to help me out with this. Right. And, cool. You've got some buddies on the force who will come back you up, as it were.
And they're like, you're paying? Okay, we're there. Yeah,
that's cool. I like that. I was wondering if you could kind of retain some of that history and have that character arc with your own character and take on like different roles to be able to manipulate how the world gets played out, because you've made this story decision and it actually works out in your favor in the Red as well too. I like that.
Absolutely.